Sincere apologies for coming behind schedule due to some circumstances beyond our control. Welcome to Africa Discourse. I am Wilson Omasha. Today it's all about the crisis rocking Sudan. Remember Omar Bashir talking about the president of Sudan has been there for quite a long time. It took protests upon protests this time around led by professionals, doctors, engineers, lawyers, teachers, professors coming out to say enough is enough. Leave that position. And some of them were killed in the act. There was a testimony of a doctor that was trying to help someone that was shot, and he too became a casualty. This is no meant say of like saying it was, how will I put it now, exchanged bullets or not really meant for him and all that. He was shot more than 2-3 times, you know, to show you how tough the Sudanese case really is even right now. It took the intervention of the military to topple the president. People are like asking, must it always require the presence of the military in Africa to restore democracy? And moreover, when the first military group came out to chase Omar Bashir from his seat, people like saying that we don't even want you. Yes, that led to another protest where some persons were shot. And just for peace to reign, they moved the first batch of military led by Abney. Yeah, and now we have another one that is saying that it's going to do whatever it takes to restore peace in Sudan. Sudan crisis, the impact of military intervention. We're here in the studio to do analysis on this particular topic. Join me, welcome a legal practitioner, a human rights activist and environmentalist, Barrister Chima Williams. Barrister, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate your comment.
And thank you to our listeners.
It's been a while, a long while, yeah, on this platform, Africa Discourse. Yeah. Okay, here we are. Sudan has always been it. They are at it again. Many persons, they've lost their lives, some made in critical condition, but it's like they're making a headway. We now have a transition regime, and they say to take them 2 years or thereabout to foster peace in that region. Before we go into the discussion, we want to go for a break. We'll be right back.
Not just your soul, but our souls. Indeed, he loved us unto death. What then shall we render unto this greatest lover of mankind?
He's done so much for me, I cannot tell it all.
Independent television and radio is inviting both old and young to Jesus celebration party tagged Easter Bedu Unspeakable.
Did you say unspeakable?
Yes, unspeakable. Or you know, as somebody we go home with executive Tolo amongst other fantastic prizes via competitions like Gile Giga competition, Bible challenge, ball juggling, dance competition, Easter song singing competition, etc.
Tell me more.
Artists, cartoon characters, and our game garden are available as usual for your delight. So be there.
Music to be supplied by El Shaddai Gospel Band and DJ Ultimate. Date is Sunday, 21st April 2019.
Time 11am.com.
Venue ITV Radio Corporate Office, Glasshouse Airport Road, Benin City.
Gate fee 500 naira per head.
This event is partly sponsored by Azagba Mobile Phone World, Omegatron Plaza, 47 Airport Road, Benin City, and supported by Named Energy Limited, 51 Akezua Street off Airport Road, Benin City.
Easter Bedu Unspeakable.
All right, it's all about Omar Bashir, talking about the ousted president of Sudan. And Barrister Chima Williams is here with me in the studio to really throw more light on this. The Sudanese crisis, or the Sudan crisis. We have been talking about it, and of course, been a case of accusations and counter-accusations, and people are pointing, I think, accusing fingers at the government of Bashar, while he is like, pointing accusing fingers also at the opposition. But here we are, the military coming to say enough is enough. How do you view this?
Well, you see, military intervention in governance all over the world, and at this era, you know, is always viewed as an aberration. Most of the times, military intervention connotes negativity. But if we look at the Sudanese situation today, it calls for mixed bag. Okay? Because this is a government that one man have held the country, even at a point can be described as holding the country in hostage for over 30 years. I mean, it's not a monarchical leadership whereby once you enthrone the king until you die, or you are disqualified by infirmity or whatever, or you surrender by yourself, you continue to be there. Sudan is supposed to be a country that is led by people who are, periodically elected. And al-Bashir had manipulated the system always to enthrone himself to continue to be there, irrespective of what the opposition have said or is saying or doing. No matter the candidate that have been presented to challenge him, he's always manipulated his way back. And now, you see, the beauty of it is that the citizens decided that enough is enough. We've had enough of you, al-Bashir, even if you're the saint, even if you're the best, even if you're from heaven, okay? But we see things that you've done that have not glorified the Sudanese nation. He's been accused of, engaging in ethnic cleansing that led to the separation of, the division of Sudan to Sudan and Southern Sudan. Okay? And this came as a result of, mindless killing of Sudanese. What at some quarters have been described as genocide against the Sudanese people. Okay, so, given that track record of al-Bashir and the strength that he had with the backing of the military, who, the leadership, are his allies, it became, very difficult for the civilian populace to chase him out. Okay? I think this is where, the mix of the civilian agitation, demonstrations, and all whatnot, combining with the military, saw the exit of al-Bashir. And you see where it is a little bit of a positive, where other nations should learn, where they are tyrants, who have foisted themselves on the people, can take you from Sudan, is that they are not just asking for the exit of al-Bashir, but anything associated with him. And those that have held the country down over the years, should not be engaged, should not be involved. That is why within 3 days, 2 dictators were chased away. And made one to now have a record of being, head of state for just 1 day.
1 day.
Okay? And now, because of the resoluteness of the Sudanese citizens, they said, no, we are saying that al-Bashir should go. You, as a military person, we know that you and al-Bashir were hand in glove doing what was happening. So it is like the hand of Esau, the voice of Jacob. So we don't want you. And because of their determination, the military did not have any choice other than to ease out one of theirs and brought a little bit of a more neutral person, who is now saddled. But you see, the other part of it is, what will come out of this? If the sacrifices made by the Sudanese people, who are now asking the military, no, we are not asking for you to come and stay, so don't give us timetable of 2 years or, you know, whatever. Okay? We need a civilian democratic regime. After all, it's the civilians that chased this man away. So you cannot just come and occupy the space and begin to talk to us about years. No, military intervention, you know, if it has to be regarded as a positive one, in the case of Sudan, you know, by aligning with the people, okay, should not look at a timetable of even up to 6 months.
6 months?
Yes.
Do you think 6 months will be enough for them to really make sure that there is peace to conduct an election?
Now, what peace are we talking about? What peace are we talking about? Is it peace with the military or peace with the civilians who mobilized themselves and said enough is enough? Who mobilized themselves and are telling the military that we want a civilian rule, a civilian democracy, not military dictatorship. So when you talk about peace, in this instance, it would be that the military will be hiding under the acclaim of restoring peace, you know, to continue the dictatorship that the civilians say they don't want. So, who are they making peace between? The civilians don't have any problems among themselves. The military, I don't think they have problems with the civilians. So it is only the elite class, those that will benefit from the political leadership that wants to force themselves on the Sudanese people, that are now talking of peace.
Okay.
So in the analysis, you know, if the peace will be achieved overnight, if the military tells the civilians, look, this is our transition timetable, go and organize yourself, mobilize yourself, you know, and begin the electoral processes. Of course, the institutions are already there. It's just to revive them and amend somewhere necessary.
All right, talking about amending somewhere necessary, say 2 years is like too much. Now, they made another move. The military arresting former members of Bashar's government. Is it really worth it? Were they the ones at the helms of affairs? Arresting them is not a breach of human rights.
Well, you see, this is where military dictatorship is always condemned. Okay? Because it is said, no matter how good or excellent a military dictatorship is, it can never be compared to the worst democracy. Okay? Because of instances like this. Of course, what will be the charges against these persons? The crime of al-Bashir is that, amongst others, that he has overstayed his welcome. Okay? And he had been at the helm of decision making to do certain things that were unacceptable to the Sudanese people. So, if you are now going to arrest, you know, those that served under his government, what are the allegations against them? Have they obstructed, you know, the people from achieving their target of ousting, you know, al-Bashir? Because, of course, the military, if we want to say that the untainted, all those that are at hierarchies cannot claim to be totally clean or to be absorbed 100%.
But some of these high-ranking military personnel, the ones that really stood their ground to say, Bashar, you have to leave.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. We are talking about violation of the rights of those persons who hitherto worked, you know, under al-Bashir. Okay? Are they being arrested because there are allegations, criminal allegations against them, violations of the Constitution of Sudan, or the rights of others, or they have been involved in corrupt practices, okay, under which they were already being investigated, or, there were already accusations, or is the military, gang now using this as an opportunity to create commotion in the country so that they have justification for why they will have to stay for long? If they don't have anything, if they don't have any secret agenda on their own, mind you, to oust al-Bashir was the military that engineered it. It wasn't the military that engineered it. It was the civilian populace who have been protesting for the past 4 months. And the military now saw that the only way to save the integrity, territorial integrity, and the continued existence of Sudan is to intervene and make sure that this guy, they support the civilian agitation for this guy to be eased out. So they cannot take undue advantage of that to harass the people that even made it possible for them to come on board. Because there is one thing. It will be very difficult for you to oust a leader except you have some of his, insiders working with you. There are no two ways about it. If everybody that is working with him are all with him, it will be absolutely very difficult, except you kill the person. Okay? But because there must be people within that do not like what is happening, they will support. Because, of course, they cannot openly confront their the one that appointed them.
Yeah.
They will be sacked. But they can work with others from outside who says, enough is enough. So in that, if you now begin to arrest people indiscriminately, then you yourself have its hidden agenda that you want to protect.
That means there is a hidden agenda somewhere. Now, there are this set of persons with a thought about what they did in Sudan. From definition, it's a coup d'etat, because after all, no matter how bad Bashar is, he was democratically elected. Do you think that that act should be condemned? After all, a coup is a coup, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, you see, the saying that those who make, peaceful changes impossible, make violent changes inevitable, could come to play. If al-Bashir was not a sit-tight dictator that was ready to muzzle anybody, we'll read about, how the opposition have been dealt with. So were you thinking that the parliament would have impeached him? Because that's the only way, outside of this, that he would have been removed. So no matter the demonstration, no matter the rioting that the citizens embarked, it would have been met with military might to quell them and crush them. Okay? So in this instance, that is why I started with that it is a mixed bag. And I equally said that military intervention, no matter how good intentioned, is always an aberration.
So are you not saying that this is an aberration? Or this case is a special case?
This is a special case. Because, one, you will see the trend of events. The military did not just wake up one morning and say that they were overthrowing al-Bashir. The civilian populace had mobilized themselves, both opposition and some within, and said, no, we've had enough of this man. You are destroying us rather than building us. For your 30 years plus in Sado, we would level, you know, in Sudan, we have to look at it from both sides.
All right.
The military were called upon by the civilian agitators.
Were they called upon or they choose to intervene? Because the civilian were like
wait.
combining both Bashar and the military together as one. Is that they're fighting against both the military and the then president?
Yes, because if you see, the next person that, you know, tried to take over from al-Bashir, who was the military head, was al-Bashir's ally. Okay? So these can explain why the civilian populace said, we don't want al-Bashir and his military proteges. Okay? So in that instance, when that what they envisaged was going to happen happened, they did not say it is Uhuru because al-Bashir is out of the way. That was why they stood their ground and said, no, this is not what we wanted. Okay? And now that the al-Bashir's very close friend who took over from him had been eased out, another person, of course, from the military rank, took over because, you see, there is no other way anything would have happened because the civilians populace wouldn't have taken over government. So it would have amounted to waste of time, energy, resources, and lives, you know, if the civilians, you know, had continued in an anarchical way to say, no, we don't want anybody to be in government, so Sudan should be without leadership. So everybody be a law unto yourself. So this is where vicariously they invited the military, okay, as a third force to intervene. Okay? They may not have had a written or a discussion to say military come and take over, but by your actions, if you have pushed this man away, who takes over? Since if the civilian apparatus was not able to remove him, for instance, if it was the parliament that had removed him, okay, then they would have called for either his vice to take over or the most senior person in the legislature takes over.
Takes over. Okay.
But Wilson, the point here is that the civilian populace saw that, look, the only way for us to have a new beginning is to ask everybody to leave first. Then from those that were with him, those that are less tainted, maybe when we start the reorganization, they can have roles to play.
But see, these are democratically elected individuals. After all, they have their house. You mean the house also will be scrapped? Is that not opposite the foundation of democracy in Sudan? Because according to rules in democracy, if the president goes out, the number one man in the house becomes the president.
Yeah.
So why didn't the military put in the number one man from the house?
Now, because there was no negotiation. Okay? And you know that what is happened in Sudan is not constitutionally defined. And there is no way it's ever happened that a military takes over and then the same day hands over power, you know, to the same institution that they have taken over from. Okay? Because if the legislator, the Sudanese legislators, were up and doing, immediately the demonstration lasted for 1 month, 2 months. Because this is where, no matter how we look at Nigeria, if Nigerian citizens from the north, from the south, from the east, from the west, rises up against any government, I mean, it wouldn't last for that period. Something will happen. Okay? Now we can see what happened to the third-term agenda, because Nigerians said, no, this is not our constitution, whether you like it or not. So everybody began to mobilize, and you know that the legislators will be stronger if they see that the masses are with them.
With them.
But if you are equally accusing and attacking them, then definitely there is little or nothing they will do, because for them to take position against, the president, and if they fail, they've got trouble for themselves. And if they win in doing that, and then the citizens are not with them, they equally will test the wrath of the citizens. So in this, it becomes a scenario that had not been contemplated. But if the military had been in discussion with the parliament, and they agreed that the parliament is doing what it's supposed to do, the only problem is Mr. President, then this is where we would have been talking about, the military removing, and in that case, God forbid, it may have led to bloodshed, because if the president drops dead, God forbid, then you can assume that the vice will take over. If the president on his own, through pressure, resigns, which is not in the instant case. Okay? Now, so, talking about, that the military should have handed over to the civilian would be a wishful thinking.
Okay, a wishful thinking. Well, at first, when the coup started, and it was a successful coup, believe it or not, it's a coup. Evening, talking about the ranking general was asked to sit in the president's stead, at least to foster peace for the next 2 years. People were still protesting, reacting. It led to bloodshed. General Ibni immediately stepped aside. Then Abdullah, another general but quite neutral, now came on board. They were still protesting. And all of a sudden, a third person came into the scene. And it seems that there is a little bit of calm. And here comes the question. If we go to Egypt, it took the intervention of the military. A lot of people were involved in it. They talk about Mohamed Morsi that was removed for Sisi to come in as a military. Now, if you go down to Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, it took the crocodile, Mnangagwa, the military personnel, to take him out of that state. If you take a look at Libya, late Gaddafi, he was killed also by military militia action. And here we are, Cote d'Ivoire too, you remember Lorek Bible, the same military intervention, and here in Sudan, military intervention. Must it take the military to foster democracy in Africa?
Yeah, you see, this is where, the saying that when people fail to learn from history, the cost of such events, doubles. Okay? Because do we need to tell African leaders that you play your role, you get out of the way for another person to play? After all, we proclaim democracy. And then we don't understand the tenets of democracy. Free will of the people to decide who leads them at a particular point in time. That is the origin of democracy. And that is why it is defined as government of the people, for the people, and by the people. So no matter how good you are, the day you refuse to listen to the voice of the people, you become a dictator. And then you are classified alongside the military dictators too. Because what is wrong in it is the dictatorship that is in the military. Because they don't take instruction from anybody. And then when you as a civilian president grows to the level that you see yourself as the embodiment of the nation, that you listen to nobody, your own is worse. Because you rode on the shoulders of the citizens to get there, and all of a sudden you began to think that they can no longer be respected. But the military dictator, knows that he is in for a battle of life and death. If he is killed, he goes. If he succeeds, he becomes head of state. If the coup fails, he will be killed for coup plotting. Okay? So, But as we see it, in all the instances that have been given, what had been the cause of military intervention? In most cases, it is because of longevity of the rulership. Okay? And in some cases, apart from the civilian dictator being in power for so long, he begins to get power drunk that he begins to equate himself as the country. Okay? So whatever he decides happens, and in most cases, in all these instances, apart from probably Libya, it is in addition to bad governance, the people suffering. No benefits coming to the people, but the dictator and his cohorts and immediate family living off the rest of the citizens who, you know, endure abject poverty and penury. So, if you look at it, who should be blamed? Is it the military that, you know, sees themselves as messiahs, coming to change the lot of the people and bring them out of the doldrum into a state where their voices can be heard and they can begin to act too? Are they the ones to be blamed? Or our sit-tight civilian dictators and devils? Because anybody that will allow himself to, you know, because of what he wants, for citizens to be massacred without feeling, is a devil. Because it's only devil that derives joy when people are suffering and crying. Otherwise, you should know that no matter how good an individual is, except another person is tested, you cannot know who is better or who will be better.
All right. Now, talking about the opposition, they are at the forefront of this protest. Do you think that this is going to be an easy ride for them to come into power? Because they've been going at it for quite a while. Though they couldn't succeed until the citizens choose to join force with them, it was like a massacre in Sudan. Do you see them having a free day this time around?
Well, you see, in politics, it is not always that 1 + 1 gives you 2. Okay? 1 + 1 will depend on what you are adding together. 1 + 1 can become 1 in marriage. Okay? And 1 + 1 can become 1 and 1. Because they are two different things. So, it is too early a time, you know, to begin to make predictions as to what will happen. Because don't forget, now, one thing we can give out is that the Sudanese people are now more than ever mobilized. Okay? So, they may not be looking at whether you are opposition, whether you are mainstream, whether you are non-allied. What Sudanese people will be looking forward to will be a credible Sudanese that loves the Sudanese country, you know, as a nation and its people, that is interested in the welfare and well-being of all, that will try to rebuild Sudan from the ashes of the 30 years of al-Bashar's regime. Don't forget, al-Bashar is still alive and still will be in Sudan. Okay? Therefore, it will be that the Sudanese people should look for a better and more credible alternative.
All right. Now,
not looking at whether opposition or mainstream or non-aligned.
All right. Now, talking about alternative, talking about election, do you think that the impact or the power or the presence of al-Bashar will be absent in the election that will be conducted in the future?
Well, you see, so long as al-Bashar is still alive, Okay? Definitely, it is not 100% of Sudanese citizens that dislikes him. Even among those that dislikes him, you know, some may just simply be because he has been on power for too long. Not that perhaps they hate him as a person, for instance. Even among the opposition, it could be that even some of them may be consulting with him on some issues. Okay? So you cannot write him off. Having been on the saddle of leadership for 30 years, I mean a 30-year-old man, you know how that person will already be. So al-Bashir will know some things that some may not know. Okay? But again, whatever his influence will bring will be dependent on how and what the Sudanese persons see of the person, you know, that will be projected.
All right. Now, talking about the people and, of course, the African Union, when you take a look at Sudan, it took the military intervention. Zimbabwe also the same thing. Egypt, likewise. People came up, they revolted, and the African Union didn't bat an eyelid. What does this say for the Union?
Well, you see...
just after all, take a look at the name, African Union.
Yes, yes.
When Egypt was burning, they were quiet.
Yes.
When Libya was burning, not to be found.
Yes.
Zimbabwe, Sudan, the names just keep on churning up.
Yeah, you see, when you talk of, you know, the strength of a union is dependent on, one, the economic power of that union, two, the military might of that union, and then thirdly, the political sagacity of that union. Okay? Now, it will be said, and rightly too, if the African Union did nothing, you know, to stem the tide in these countries, you know, that we've had military intervention both in the north and, you know, in the east of Africa, you know, nothing has happened. Then it speaks a lot. Because if we draw down how Gbagbo, you know, was east out, and the recent, the last one,
in Zimbabwe?
No, West Africa, where Nigeria, you know, Nigeria had played roles. You know, as the big brother, to say that, look, my friend, military, we don't need you here. Okay, you have hosted out, then hand over to the civilian. Because Nigeria has the military might to engage any West African country and bring them to their knees without pretending. They have the economic might, and they equally have the political acumen. Because if you remember the first one, it was under President Obasanjo, who is a military general, retired. So which of the military officers that were disturbing that wouldn't have been his boys? And the intervention of President Buhari, who is a military general.
Are you not saying that Nigeria is more influential than the African Union?
What is influence? No. What is influence? If you cannot use your influence positively to affect those that are around you, then you will have no influence. Okay? So if these countries that we talked about were to be in West Africa, Nigeria would have mobilized ECOWAS without looking for African Union, where they don't have any influence or power over, you know, to have done something. That is where you call influence. It is not when you sit down, you only dare to collect dues and hold meetings and churn out decisions that you don't implement, then you become irrelevant. No wonder Muammar Gaddafi was trying to change the African Union to become, you know, a virile institution that can stand. It is not only, to intervene when there is crisis. Support the small countries in their times of need, economic need. That is where, your influence will be, accepted. Just what America has been doing, what China is doing. Okay? So if you are a bigger country within a union of states, and I think that is why Nigeria is respected in West Africa, because most of our brother countries, sister countries, when they have issues, not just crisis, Nigeria tries as much as they can, to assist. And that is how a union should be. That is why you look at all the other global unions, they still remain relevant because they support and assist their member nations.
All right, all right. Before we call it a wrap on this show, because our time is up, I'm getting a strong signal to call it a wrap. If you really want to estimate for Sudan, or the time to be given to Sudan to conduct free, fair, credible election that will be generally accepted by the Sudanese, what's your time frame?
I will ask the military, because a military intervention is an aberration. But because of the circumstances we find ourselves in Sudan, the military should stay no longer than 6 months. 6 months? Yes.
All right, 6 months. Let's see what is going to happen. Barrister Chima Williams, thank you so much for your wonderful analysis.
Thank you, Wilson.
Tomorrow we'll see you again on International Forum. Bye for now.